story time about how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So because I just turned 18, I thought about signing up for a few dating apps. So I did. I matched with this really cute guy named Chris. And we chatted on the app for like 3 weeks back and forth. I would ask him to FaceTime, but he would always make up some lame excuse. Yes, ladies, there's a video dating app coming out soon. So no more lame excuses for sus boys. Anyways, so finally after asking him a bunch of times to hang out, we finally made plans to meet up for dinner. He gave me the address to the place and it was like 20 minutes from where I lived. And he told me that he was going to be wearing a baseball cap and I told him that I was going to be wearing a white shirt and green jeans. So I took an Uber and got there at like 6 o'clock, but when I got in there I didn't see anybody with a baseball cap on. While I'm looking around, all of a sudden somebody taps me on the shoulder. So I turn around and it's this older guy wearing a baseball cap and he goes, "Oh, hi, I'm Chris." So I'm definitely feeling super sus at this point, but I'm too fucking nice to be like, "Ooh, get the fuck away from me." So I figured I might as well get a free meal out of this. So we sat down to eat like for part 2. Okay, part 2 of how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So we get seated, we ordered our food, and I start talking to him. You know, I was just trying to be nice and finish my meal, but it was literally so creepy. The whole time he's like, "Wow, you're so beautiful. How are you still single? Yada, yada, yada." I honestly just wanted to eat and leave so bad. So here I am texting my friend that I just got fucking catfished. And while I was going in and out of my purse, I dropped my phone on the floor. And I know you're probably thinking, "Oh, why the hell is she telling us that part about the phone?" Well, because I'm pretty sure that he put something in my drink. No, like he 100% put something in my fucking drink. So I hurry up and eat my food and drink my drink because I just wanted to get the hell out of there. And my drink tasted totally fine, like there was no bitterness or anything. So while he was getting the check, I went to the bathroom to call my friend. And as soon as I get into the bathroom, I start feeling so off. And no, it was not my anxiety from sus Chris. I also felt like I was gonna throw up. And my friend wasn't picking up at all. So I tried sharing my location with her, which I usually never do, like for part 3. Part 3 of how I got catfished and almost kidnapped. So like I said, I shared my location with her, but it took me forever because I had no control over my body whatsoever. And I was throwing up uncontrollably. So she immediately knew that something was wrong because I wouldn't just randomly share my location with her. So that's when I blacked out and I really only remember a few things that happened after that. Like I remember being out in the parking lot and him walking me to a car, which I thought was my Uber. So I remember waking up in the car and looking at the dashboard and it being 9 o'clock at night. So I start to wake up a little bit and I realize that I'm in somebody else's car and I can't find my phone anywhere. I'm pretty sure I blacked out again after that because the last thing I remember is a police officer standing over me and shining a flashlight in my face. So apparently there's security footage of him pulling off into a gas station and putting me in the trunk, and he was able to make it all the way to South Carolina from West Virginia. So my best friend shared my location with authorities. I want to spread awareness that things like this actually do happen. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video's worth 1,000,000. So click the link in my bio for a safer option of online dating. Love you guys.
Am I the asshole for inviting my girlfriend on an expensive vacation and expecting her to pay all of her share? My girlfriend and I, my parents, my brother and his wife all went on vacation in another country a week ago. My girlfriend knew this trip was coming up and took on a second job waitressing on the weekends for several months to get ready for it. My brother and I were the ones who did most of the planning of the itinerary, although we did ask everyone else for input. For background, I make around $150,000 as an IT consultant. My girlfriend is a teacher making around $45,000. My parents are pretty affluent, as well as my brother and sister-in-law. We have always split things 50-50 in the 2 years we have been together. There were a few times on the vacation where she did not go on the outings with us, wine tasting, scuba diving, etc. She also would only eat 2 meals a day, stating simply that she was on a budget. My family does favor more high-end, expensive places. My parents thought it was very strange that she only eats 2 meals a day, although she normally eats 3. I mentioned how I heard her stomach growling one night and said I was concerned about her having an eating disorder. When we got back home, I asked her why she skipped out on several of the outings and only ate 2 meals a day. She got teary-eyed and said that 3 meals a day wasn't physically feasible for her, and neither were the outings that she chose not to go on. She went on 3 of 6. She said she was not expecting everything to cost so much and she was overwhelmed. She also said she doesn't know if this is going to work long term if she's expected to go on vacations like that with people who make much more than her. I feel bad that I did not pick up on her discomfort sooner, but we did agree to split everything 50-50, and I don't know why she agreed to come if the cost was an issue. So am I the asshole for picking an expensive vacation?
Okay, so I don't know if you're still taking paranormal stories for a future episode, but I figure I send in my experience. So my freshman year, I was in a triple dorm with 2 girls who I genuinely did not get along with. However, we are all united on the front that something weird/spooky was happening in our room. We were on the 2nd story of our dorm building, and often we would begin to hear Jack in the Box music. We would go investigate with all 3 of us to see if anyone in the hallway was playing music or outside our window, but never found anyone. This would happen frequently. Other times, we would all be watching something on the television we shared, and suddenly, books would fall from the shelves they had been on, and the TV would glitch. One time while watching TV, it turned itself off, and the TV stand shook, and the flat screen fell over. After a few occurrences like this, we decided to tell our RA about our weird experiences together because we did not want to seem crazy. And she informed us that lots of people on the floors above us, but in the same room, had reported similar happenings to their RAs. The freakiest happening didn't come until we shared with our RA though. Our dorm room doors were on the hydraulic hinges, so no one could slam the door and they would shut slowly behind. This meant that no one could pull the door shut quickly. It simply couldn't be done. Every night we all triple checked the door being locked before bed because of how bad all of our anxiety was. On one night after we had all checked on the door and gone to lay down in our lofted beds, the door slammed open and was slammed shut again just as quickly. We all three screamed because it shocked and terrified us from not only the noise, but realization it should not have been physically possible due to the door being locked and the hinges the door used. Our screams were so loud that our RA and other people on our floor ran to see what was wrong and tried to open our door. It was locked again, just as it had been when we checked it before the incident. After the incident, we all struggled to live there. It was scary and my anxiety increased 100%. Small things happened here and there, like the Bluetooth speaker turning on and playing creepy classical music.
Oh no.
Shut up.
Despite my roommate being the only one connected to it with a password. Nothing like the door incident ever happened again, but my RA did share a picture of the ghost we all believed was haunting us from one of the residents that lived above us. I attached the picture here.
Oh, okay, let's
Wait,
see
I'm
it.
so scared
You
to
don't want to
see
see
this
it?
picture.
It's not going to be that creepy.
What if it is? You don't know.
Do you think it is?
It gives me the chills.
I want to unsee it. I want to unsee it. And I don't even react to him. Stop. Oh, I want to unsee it, but I almost want to look again. Because I'm like, did I see that correctly? I don't want to. No.
Am I the asshole for making my boyfriend rehome his German Shepherd? Me and my boyfriend have been together since we were in university. We're both 23 and recently moved in together. We both went to our local university, so we both lived at home so we'd be able to save money. Around a year after we started dating, my boyfriend got a German Shepherd puppy. I've never been a fan of German Shepherds, but I'm a dog lover, so I wasn't going to tell him not to get one when we weren't even living together yet. When we moved in, my dislike of German Shepherd was confirmed. The dog leaves hair all over the place, barks whenever someone walks by our house, needs extreme amounts of exercise. I could go on for hours. However, I was willing to put up with it since my boyfriend had otherwise trained him well. I now realize how stupid that was since the dog breed seems to have problems regardless of how well it's trained. I recently got a Rottweiler puppy, and to say that I formed a bond with him would be an understatement. The German Shepherd, on the other hand, didn't take too kindly to the puppy and would have made its disdain for the dog known. Me and my boyfriend took the dog to the vet to see where the issue could come from, and she told us that some German Shepherds just don't get along with other dogs. My boyfriend suggested that we may have to rehome my puppy due to his puppy's disdain of him, and he could still find a good home since he was only 5 months. The thought of rehoming something I loved for a dog I couldn't stand mortified me, and to think that the only reason for rehoming him would be because of another dog's nasty behavior didn't make the situation any better. I told my boyfriend that there was no way I was rehoming my puppy and that I'd be willing to move out if need be. After days of arguing, my boyfriend took the dog to the local shelter. The house has been much quieter since, and I can honestly say it was one of the best decisions I ever made. My sister, on the other hand, didn't hold this sentiment and actually referred to me as an evil bitch for putting my boyfriend in this position. So it got me thinking, am I the asshole?
Story time about how my husband ran away with his brother's wife on their wedding day. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. My husband has been a serial cheater for the 5 years that we've been married. He started cheating on me 2 weeks after we got married. And no, he never bothered to hide any of it. Anytime I found out about an affair, I would ask him and he would be honest and tell me that yes, he was having an affair, but that he would end it. But of course I knew that once a cheater, always a cheater. So I never, ever, ever trusted him after that. I wanted to even the playing field, so I decided to have my own affairs. You see, I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine so that he could see what it felt like. And he actually got psychotic when he found out that I cheated on him the first time. He even locked me in a room for 5 hours and questioned me. I told him that if he was going to cheat on me, then I was definitely going to cheat on him too. I know that this is incredibly toxic, but it was the only thing that I could think of to make him change his ways. That's when he finally decided that he would try to stay faithful to me for as long as he possibly could. But what do you know, 2 weeks later, he was already cheating on me again. He had a really rowdy group of friends and they would always go out to bars, so this is how he met these women. Of course, he'd tell them that he was single, and these girls had no idea that he was married. So it's not like I could get mad at them. My husband is close to his brother and they would always hang out. When his brother got engaged and he met his fiance, I could tell that my husband was eyeing her from head to toe. That's when I told him that he needed to stay away from her, not only for me, but for his brother. And he swore that he would never ever do that to his own brother. But he could definitely do it to his wife, of course. We would see his brother and his fiance all the time. We would have dinners together, and that's when I started noticing that she
she was also staring at my husband. I would catch them constantly looking at each other. Eventually, I told my husband's brother, my brother-in-law, about the concerns I had of his fiance with my husband. He laughed and even actually got mad at me for suggesting such a thing. I told him that he would regret it if he didn't take action now. A few weeks before the wedding, my husband started acting really strange. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my husband ran away with his brother's wife on their wedding day. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I sent me on Instagram. I noticed my husband was acting really strange before the wedding. He started going out every single night. He wouldn't tell me where he would go and he would leave his phone in the house. Sometimes he'd come back the following morning. A few days before the wedding, I decided to confront him about it. I knew that I didn't want to stress him out before the wedding, but at the same time, I couldn't live like this. I had this worried, sick feeling in my stomach every single night and I would barely sleep knowing that he was out doing God knows what. When I asked him what was going on, he told me that I was overreacting and that he was just playing poker with his friends at his friend's house. I told him to call his friend on speaker so that he could confirm his story. That's when he threw a tantrum. He started slamming doors and cabinets in the kitchen, telling me that I was overreacting and that I needed to let him live his life. And he even mentioned divorce for the first time ever. He said he didn't want to be tied down to such a jealous woman. That's when I broke. I literally pulled out a list of all the women that he had cheated on me, the ones that I knew of. And I told him that he had broken my heart over 10 times that I knew of. And that I knew he would never stop and that the only thing that was fair for me was to at least have him be honest. That's when he hugged me and started to cry. And that was the first time I had seen him show any emotion towards my pain. He began to apologize and told me that he never meant to hurt me that way. We hugged and we just watched a movie and everything was back to normal. But I knew that nothing was back to normal and that he was hiding something. Finally, the day of the wedding comes and he is stressed. From the moment he woke up, he was pacing in the house, sweating. He even had 4 cups of coffee. I asked him what was wrong and he said that he was just nervous for his brother. We finally head to the church where everyone is already waiting. And when we get there, the first thing I see is the bride. She's standing outside the church with the suitcase. Without even turning to look at me, my husband tells me to get out of the car quickly. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my husband ran away with his brother's wife on their wedding day. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I sent me on Instagram. Without looking at me, my husband tells me to get out of the car as fast as I can. I asked him what was going on and he opened the door and pushed me out. That's when the bride jumps into the car with her suitcase and her wedding dress. And he drove off as fast as he could. I kept yelling at the top of my lungs. Of course, the entire family runs out of the church to see what's happening. That's when my mother-in-law told me that the wedding had already happened, but we had arrived late. And that right after they were married, the bride took the groom aside and told her that she didn't want to be with him. Of course, he got really upset and they got into a full blown out fight in front of everyone. When he asked her where she was going, she said she had a ride prepared. She grabbed her suitcase and apparently walked out, and that's when my husband and I pulled up. The groom and I were absolutely devastated. I kept calling my husband and he kept calling his wife, but of course they both ignored us. My parents-in-law were so upset that they even called the police to report his car stolen. This was in the hopes that they would at least find their car, but unfortunately nobody found the car on the streets. This led us to believe that they were probably hauled up at some hotel. This is when I remembered that my husband really liked this one hotel that was by his job. He always told me that he would go there for drinks with his friends. So my family-in-law and I show up, and as soon as we get to the hotel, I see my husband and his now girlfriend having lunch in the restaurant at the hotel. Of course, we confronted them. We were all yelling at the top of our lungs and the hotel kicked us out. Finally, my father-in-law was able to talk some sense into my husband and make him realize what he had done. Not only had he ruined our marriage, but his brother's future as well. His brother was beside himself, so depressed and kept crying. And my mother-in-law had to take a sedative in order to calm down. My husband came to his senses and told his girlfriend that what they did was wrong. He looked at me and begged me for forgiveness, but of course, I didn't speak a word to him. My now sister-in-law / my husband's girlfriend, she decided to head straight to the airport and went back to her parents. It's been a few weeks now and my brother-in-law took her back. I still haven't forgiven my husband, but we're still living in the same house. I don't know what to do.
Am I the asshole for taking away my daughter's car for lying to my fiance? I, 36-year-old male, have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because her mom had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend who's 21 years old. Then quarantine happened, and that time apart made me realize that I wanted to spend my life with her, so I proposed in May and she moved in, and our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my younger sister, who's 25, keep calling my fiance the kid. My fiance decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity she needed to tend to. So yesterday, when my daughter once again made up the excuse, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling to a diner, and I realized she was grabbing lunch with my younger sister. I was beyond furious. First at my sister for enabling toxic behavior, and second at my daughter for lying to her future stepmom. I ended up taking her car keys away from her. Her aunt then called and said I had no right to do so. I explained that she would not be getting the car back until she makes an attempt to bond with her stepmom. Am I the asshole for not condoning lying? I just want my fiance to be accepted into the family. What a moron. Like, what did you think? You think your daughter's gonna accept a girl who's 5 years older than her? Like, who could be her big sister as her mom? Like, men are so dumb sometimes.
I the a-hole for giving my mother an ultimatum to choose which child she wants to live with her? I moved in with my mom after she got sick to help her. 3 months later, she told me my brother was moving in to help too. I was less than enthusiastic, as my brother is always bullied and taken advantage of me, and my mom's enablement of that sours our relationship. I was basically treated like I was a bad person for not believing my brother has magically became a different person in adulthood. My mom decided to compromise, was to have him sign an agreement of his duties and our expectations for the shared living space, as well as what we all would be contributing to the household finances. I'm not trying to turn this into a pity party, but essentially, he has not lived up to a single item once. He has never taken out the trash. It's always later. They joke about it. He makes my life here miserable and filthy. He's always introducing drama and problems that beggar belief. Well, I found out my mom has needed my financial help more lately because he hasn't contributed a single dollar toward food or utilities while driving both up. And she's been trying to cover up for him. So I'm subsidizing him, treating me like a house elf, and he won't help me with her appointments or clean up after himself, let alone contribute to chores. We had a fight this morning because he left wet clothes in the washer, so I had to move them to the dryer, like always, to wash my mom's sheets, and then I had to move them out of the dryer because he wouldn't come down to get them. He was upset I left them dumped back in his laundry basket, and said I should have folded them so they won't wrinkle. He never folds his clothes, they're always wrinkled. He was demanding I iron his clothes, and my mom was trying to say she would do it for him, and I just lost it. But it was more like the straw that broke my back while they're trying to focus on it as a single overreaction. I've never hated anyone more in my life. He's the crappiest person I've ever known. So I told her it's him or me, that I'm moving out ASAP if she doesn't give him a deadline to move out. I said I'd still go to her appointments and stuff like that, but I won't live with her. My mom is hysterically upset and saying that he can't take care of her if she's sick at night, and she doesn't understand how I can be so cruel to ask her to choose between her children. But I feel like she already did a long time ago. I feel guilty to put her through this, but I also feel like this is not my fault, and I have to maintain my own sanity. I feel like crap, but I don't know what else to do. I clean the house only to wake up to it trashed every morning, and lately I've been wishing I wouldn't wake up. Am I the a-hole for posting about my 29 female engagement and pregnancy on Facebook, despite knowing that my ex 32 male is struggling with infertility? Hi all. I've kind of accepted that I might be the a-hole here, but my fiancé says I'm not. I wanted a second opinion. For context, my ex Kevin 32 male and I have a child together that I put up for adoption when I was 22. I did it largely because I didn't want to have a child with Kevin. He had a really bad temper, he was pretty irresponsible, and neither of us had steady jobs at a time. I supported us through freelance writing, but being pregnant meant that I didn't get many of the jobs I had before. I knew that neither of us would be good parents, and that relinquishment was the right choice. But if he had told me he wanted to keep the child, I wouldn't have fought him on that. When the time came, he signed the relinquishment papers without argument. Our daughter is now 7, and she seems very happy with her adoptive parents. So while the situation does still cause me pain every once in a while, I can't complain about the outcome. Kevin and I eventually broke up when he cheated on me with his current wife, Stacy, 25 female. I wasn't that torn up about it because we were honestly only staying together because of the trauma we both shared. I have since found stable work as a software engineer and recently bought a house with the extra money. My fiancé Lex, 34 male, knew this about me from the first time we met. Thankfully, it wasn't a deal breaker for him. We started dating when I was 27, I'm 29 now, and he proposed about a month ago. I accepted. Then we found out I was 3 months pregnant about a week after he proposed, which was a shock to both of us because I'm on long-term birth control. Despite the circumstances, we're overjoyed and have decided to keep the baby. Since we already passed the first trimester before we discovered I was pregnant, we decided to announce the engagement and the pregnancy at the same time. My ex flipped out. He got my number from my mom and started blowing up my phone. He told me that I forced him to put our child up for adoption. I didn't. And that I don't deserve to have a child now, knowing that I abandoned our firstborn. I blocked him, he bought burner phones. Then his wife started getting in on it, vacillating between crying and screaming in the voicemail she sent. It got so bad I had to change my number. Lex is telling me that all of this is bananas, and that if Kevin was really ready to become a parent, he would have put his foot down when the time came. My mother, on the other hand, says that I should be more compassionate towards them. A part of me doesn't want to be compassionate towards either of them. As selfish as this seems, I feel like I was the one who primarily struggled with the adoption, but like Kevin didn't support me at all through the entire event. I also have to admit I knew about their infertility struggles and didn't care. Am I the a-hole here, guys? I don't think any of this would have happened if I didn't announce it on Facebook. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit for my sister and leaving her without anyone to watch her kids? I'm 18 female, still in high school, pertinent to the story, paralyzed, also pertinent. My mom is 45, my sister is 28 and has 3 boys ages 10, 6, and 3. 4 years ago, I was in a car accident and came out paralyzed from the waist down. It has been hell having to learn a new way of life, but I haven't let that stop me. I'm going to be going to college out of state next year, and graduating in the top 10% in my school if things continue as they are. The one major thing that is a complete bummer out of all of this, other than the obvious, is that my mom thinks that I am now a free babysitter for whenever one of my older brother or sister needs one. She never consults me on these and expects me to drop plans at the drop of a hat. This past Monday, I told my parents about a Christmas movie extravaganza sleepover my friend has been planning. It's gonna be 3 girls, and we were planning on making brownies, cookies, watching really cheesy Christmas-themed romantic movies, and just girl stuff. It wasn't yesterday, and my parents said they had no problem with it. Yesterday arrived and I'm just about to roll out, when my mom comes and says my sister is on her way with her 3 boys. Apparently she asked mom if I could babysit the other day and she said yes. Didn't even bother telling me about it. I said hell no, because I already have plans. We fought and mom ended up storming off because this one time I wasn't backing down. I took the time and left, turning my phone off when I got into my friend's car. Today when I got home, I got called an immature a-hole basically. My sister was left without anyone to watch the kids during her husband's work Christmas party. But I went back on my word that I didn't make. Mom told me that I should be grateful she gives me something to look forward to, babysitting, because I have no real social life being paralyzed. I just went to my room and cried. But now I'm wondering, am I the a-hole like they say I am because I refused to babysit and then left my sister in the lurch? Am I the a-hole for arranging for my wife's parents to spend Christmas celebration with us without telling her? I, male 27, have been married to my wife, female 26, for 2 years, and we're expecting a baby boy together. My wife has been in contact with her parents because of issues that occurred between them during her teenage years. She said it was because of the way they treated her late boyfriend and their 7-year-old son. She stopped seeing them after she moved out with my stepson, but she went back to introduce me, and things were fine till a little before we got married. My wife went no contact after she claimed my mother-in-law stole all her wedding jewelry and sold it. Now, I'm not sure if that was accurate or just an excuse my wife used to get me to stop asking. A few months ago, my mother-in-law as well as other family members reached out to me, and we had conversations, without my wife, about how innocent my mother-in-law was. It was falsely accused by my wife to get back at her for past issues. I really felt she was sincere, especially after she said she wished my wife would give her another chance. I had an idea, which was that I invite my in-laws over to celebrate Christmas with me and my wife, and hopefully talk things out once and for all. I didn't tell my wife, because I didn't want her stressing over the gathering. But days ago, I came home and she began yelling at me asking what I was thinking to invite her boys and enemies to our Christmas celebration. I tried to explain that her parents are very sincere in wanting to start new with a baby coming, but she yelled that they didn't even treat my stepson or his father well. I don't deserve to be near the kids and said I needed to cancel immediately. I suggested she calm down first and we'll talk, but she refused and packed her stuff and went to stay with a friend, repeatedly saying I disrespected her and ignored her decision when it came to her family. I spoke to her friend and said maybe my wife should let bygones be bygones, and that she might be dealing with stress and is lashing out for no reason. But her friend said I overstepped and it wasn't my business to try and fix whatever issue she has with her family, and told me to back down and cancel the invite since my wife said she won't be there. But I think she's holding on to grudges and being bitter instead of settling things down with her family. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for kicking my in-laws out after they said they'll call the police on me for how I'm treating their son? I, female 33, have never been on good terms with my in-laws, but we tolerate each other and are civil. My husband, male 30, is sick right now. He was involved in an accident 2 months ago. It was bad, and we almost lost him. He's still bedridden and is very restless because of his medication. He'd end up falling out of the bed several times, resulting in more injuries. I had to lift him off the floor by myself every time, which I could no longer do because of my own health and my unborn baby's health. I'm 6 months pregnant, and my in-laws don't help at all. I ended up getting him a floor mattress that he sleeps on currently, and it's so much better. However, when my in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law 1, sister-in-law 2, and kids, brother-in-law 1 and brother-in-law 2 and wife and kids, and also my husband's grandparents and aunts, visited, which what they do often, they don't help with anything and even bring their own food to eat without me now. After calling a terrible host just because I refused to cook for them, while also expecting me to clean up after them. They saw my husband sleeping on the floor mattress, and they lost it on me saying their son should be sleeping on his bed, not on the floor, and accused me of neglecting his health and purposely making it worse even after. I explained my reasons for getting a mattress, but they demanded I return him to the original bed, or they'll call the police on me for my mistreatment of their vulnerable and helpless son. I had an argument with them about their lack of support, and told them from now on they can't and will not be allowed to visit anymore, after they basically said they'd call the police on me and had them leave immediately. They mass blasted me online and on social media calling me out for one, mistreating their son, and backed it with pictures my sister-in-law Tu's daughter took of my husband sleeping on the floor mattress without asking first.
The seasons are changing, the nights ever fading. It's time we left the ground. Let's leave for an eternity.
Am I wrong for refusing to walk my daughter down the aisle? My daughter, 26 female, and I haven't spoken in years. When she was 15, we found out that she wasn't my biological daughter and my wife had cheated on me years ago with a friend. As it turns out, the so-called friend was suddenly interested in playing dad. My wife and I divorced, my daughter learned the truth, and I told her I still loved her no matter what. Of course, she was interested now in getting to know her biological father, and while it hurt, I tried to accept that. She started pulling away from me after that. Even when trying to still do things together as a family, she was no longer interested. The last straw was when she was 20 and living at my house. We were arguing because she had dropped from her college courses, hasn't done anything for 3 months, and was mad because I told her she either needed to go to school or work if she wants to stay here for free. She told me I'm not her real dad, so stop pretending like I am, and she'll just go to stay with her real father. That broke me, honestly. But I told her if that's how she really feels, then there's really nothing left to say between us. And she did move out to go live with him. I was depressed for a very long time, and I drank a lot. My son, 24 male, was my only reason to keep moving forward. For the first couple of years, I reached out to my daughter. She wanted no contact, and I learned to accept that and moved on. It helped me find more peace in my life. My son stopped talking to her for a while over this and was angry with her. They still chat sometimes, which doesn't bother me at all. Through him, I learned her biological father died in October 2019. She reached out to me first, saying she knows that we haven't talked in a while, but wants to ask me if I'd be willing to walk her down the aisle. After a pretty long message about how much she hurt me in the past with her actions, I told her no. She didn't want me to be her father anymore, so I learned to no longer view her as my daughter. This turned into a fight between us because, according to her, it's not her fault she wanted to know her real dad. And I agreed with her it's not, but what was her fault was how she treated me ever since. In my mind, I know if he hadn't passed, we wouldn't even be speaking right now. It ended with telling her I hope she enjoys her wedding, but I want no part of her life. My son told me she's ranting to my family that I'm ruining her day, and she thought parents are supposed to love their kids unconditionally. My brother seems to think that now I am being an asshole and that this is my chance to be in her life again, but I have no interest in that. Still seems that everyone has a strong opinion on it and that I'm making it difficult for my daughter to have the wedding she wants when it would mean a lot to her. My son is on my side, but the comments are still wearing me down, and just for the sake of my sanity, am I being an asshole?
Story time about when I unintentionally gave my dog the best damn day of his life. Let me start by saying that it's important to note whenever I cook hot dogs, I slice the package, take out a few, roll the rest back up into plastic packaging, and fasten it with some good old-fashioned elastic bands. Today, however, I did not do that. I couldn't tell you why my dumbass decided to just fold the plastic over a few times and place it back on the shelf, but here we are. So my spouse comes running down in a few minutes between endless meetings to make their lunch quickly. We're the only two in the house, plus our little rescue dog who is a stray and is an absolute mooch. I mean, this dog will weave between your feet, eyes glued to the floor, hoping for even a single speck of crumb because woe is him, he's never been fed a day in his life. So we're all in the kitchen, I hear the fridge open, and it suddenly dawns on me in hard that my spouse is most definitely going to go for those hot dogs that I wrapped like a dumbass. I quickly turn around and say something, and my spouse in slow motion, wide-eyed, stares at me as the hot dog package unrolls like a fruit by the foot commercial and douses my dog's entire skull in too much to be reasonable in one fucking package of hot dog water. My dog lost his shit. Like a Christian grandma with the second coming of Christ, my dog just tears ass across the entire apartment with the worst case of the zoomies I think we've ever seen him have. He proceeds to spend the next 15 minutes singing our praises as the greatest humans alive as he rolls across every piece of furniture we own. I'm talking every piece of furniture. Now, I don't hate hot dogs, but the smell is weirdly overpowering, and every time I sat down on something else, all I can smell is the godforsaken hot dogs. My dog loves it though, and now I'm figuring out how to shampoo out hot dog water for my life. I have so many regrets.
Am I the asshole for storming out of my hair appointment without paying? I, 22 female, have been seeing the same hairstylist, Taylor, for years now. Because we always chat during appointments, she knows the basics of my life. I've always had long hair and sometimes going a bit shorter, adding bangs, adding layers, nothing crazy. Well, I had an appointment yesterday and I decided to go for a super short pixie cut. I showed my stylist and she was shocked, but then made the joke, "Oh no, this is breakup hair, isn't it?" I was weirded out by that, but I confirmed, yes, actually my boyfriend of a year and I broke up a few weeks ago, but it has nothing to do with my hair. She then tells me she doesn't really want to cut my hair that short because my hair is so nice. She said it would be a waste to cut it. She then remembers that I'm gonna be my sister's maid of honor in a couple months and that I have graduation in spring. She said that I'll regret having short hair in the photos. I was pretty offended after that, and as a grown woman, whether or not I regret a hairstyle down the line is none of her business. She said the longest she would go was a bob, and I told her that I'd be leaving and that's not what I want. She tried to get me to pay the cancellation fee as now she was going to lose 2 hours booked. I told her that wasn't my problem and I left anyways, and on my way out she told me I wasn't welcome back. I told this story to my friends today and the response was mixed, and now I'm really torn.
My sister is a single mother with 2 children, an 11 and a 7-year-old. The 7-year-old is a boy while the other one is a girl. She works a lot and doesn't have a lot of money to afford babysitting, so I started watching her kids for free. There was an incident one day where the 7-year-old had gotten mad at me because I wouldn't let him jump on the couch. I explained to him that he could get hurt and he threw a tantrum, which was normal. It's what young kids do. Well, around the time my sister gets home, he starts suddenly bawling his eyes out and running towards her. I'm confused, as he was just fine a second ago but followed behind him to greet her. He immediately starts on a rant about how I had a man in the house and how neither him or his sister had eaten all day. My sister was rightfully pissed and started asking questions. I shook my head, said he was lying, and that she had cameras so we should probably sit down and watch them. She said no, and then I
Bluetooth mirror in the bathroom. There's a lot of pros and cons to that. Like, it's really good for listening to music while you're in the shower, but really bad when your dad doesn't know how to turn off his Bluetooth. So basically, my dad was the first person to connect his phone to the mirror, and he doesn't know how to turn off his Bluetooth. He doesn't know how that thing works. He doesn't know. So I'm in the bathroom getting ready for bed, braiding my hair, washing my face, just getting ready to cozy up in bed. And my dad's in his room on his phone, like he is every single day. And all of a sudden, I hear the mirror go, "Ba-doo-doo," which is the noise it makes when a phone connects to the mirror. And all of a sudden, I just hear a girl start talking through the mirror. Like, a literal woman is speaking to me through the mirror. And she's, like, flirting. And I'm like, weird. So I check my phone to see if, like, a video from TikTok was playing and it connected to the mirror. Wasn't my phone. And I'm like, well, what connected to the mirror? And then I hear my dad from his room start going, "Hello? Hello?" And then it clicked. My dad was on the phone with some girl and it connected to the bathroom mirror. I heard some things I did not want to hear. Scarring. I'm scarred. Like, I'm nauseous. I'm not gonna go into detail. I'm gonna save y'all from the detail, but let's just say it took him about 5 minutes to finally disconnect his Bluetooth. And that's 5 minutes. I'm gonna get off.
Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé he committed theft by gifting his nephew the gift I bought for my sick brother? My female 30 brother, male 16, was born with a heart condition that prevented him from living his childhood to the fullest and doing his favorite activities. He can't do most things due to his condition and the side effects his medications have on him. My parents have always struggled with money because of medical bills, and unfortunately they cannot afford to buy my brother nice things. For example, he always wanted a console to play with. He only gets to play when my uncle and cousins visits and bring their console. My brother has been feeling sad and lonely recently after his doctors recommended that visits be limited. I decided to use my salary to get him his own console and wait till Christmas to give it to him. I bought an Xbox and it has been sitting in my closet until I discovered that my fiancé took it and sent it to his nephew who lives states away. I was in dismay. I confronted him about it, asking why he took the Xbox, knowing it was supposed to be a gift for my brother. He said he knew, but explained his sister's single mom and couldn't buy any gifts for her son. Nor are they receiving gifts from family since they're all ignoring her after giving her money, so they think they've done enough. He told me he felt sorry for his nephew and wanted to cheer him up, but didn't have money, so he thought that he could send him the Xbox, and then we'll figure out what I'm going to gift my brother together. I told him he had no right to touch the Xbox, and said that what he did was theft, which made him upset and somewhat shocked. He said he was very hurt I essentially called him a thief, when he thought that I cared about our nephew as much as he does. I'd explained my brother does not need the Xbox since he can't find time to play due to his condition, and also not finding playmates also due to his condition.